So yeah, we'll move on to the hurling action then, and there isn't too many games to run through. One game in Leinster, one game in Munster, 3 in the Joe McDonagh. So we'll start with the game in Leinster. Wexford versus Galway at Wexford Park. Wexford obviously coming in on the back of that shock loss to Antrim that I don't think anybody saw coming, and Galway coming in on the back of a draw versus Kilkenny. Many people saying Galway very much left that one behind them. And I think Wexford obviously will probably feel very similar about the Antrim game. Again, they will feel that they should have won. So yeah, look, I mean, it's an interesting one. Like, after Antrim beating Wexford, you would say Galway should beat Wexford and they should be the favourites and they should do it. But Wexford are such a strange county when it comes to the Leinster Championship. Like, they've won 5 games.
So weird.
They've won 5 games out of their last 14 since they won the Leinster Championship in 2019. 5 out of 14 Leinster Championship games. And I think 2 of those wins have been against Kilkenny. 1 has been against Galway. Like, it's a bit of a bizarre record that Wexford have, but they always seem to raise their games against big teams. And I don't know, like, I'd be half tempted to actually back Wexford to win this, which sounds a bit bizarre, but what do you think?
So, like, me and Matthew were talking about it after the Antrim game. And we were like, this is just classic Wexford. Like, of course. And I was like, why is there always Wexford that get caught? Why? Like, and that's a Beast's comment there. Like, we're not sure about Galway either. The reality is Galway played a Kilkenny team at home that were without Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, Owen Murphy, and there was Michael Kerry as well, wasn't there? And they had to get a late equaliser to get the draw. So, like, Shefflin, I think, will be coming out of that game actually livid that they didn't win, because Galway put out a pretty full-strength team. Wexford, this is a dangerous game for Galway, because Wexford have, what we've seen about Wexford is that they're fantastic at digging holes for themselves, digging their own grave almost. But then they're also fantastic at getting themselves out of said hole. They're always fantastic at saving themselves at the last minute. And now Wexford have already put the gun to themselves. So Galway, this is really dangerous, because Galway haven't been in the position against Wexford, or Wexford are fighting for their lives against them. It's usually been Kilkenny that are in this position. So if I was Galway, I'd be nervous going into this game. And, like, it is one of those that the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I think Wexford are going to take something off them. But I don't think Wexford are going to beat them. Wexford this season have been a team full of draws. So I'm going to go for a draw.
Yeah, do you know, I was kind of thinking of going for a draw as well, to be honest with you. Dublin is great, says there is something wrong with Wexford. Galway 224, Wexford 20 points. Beast says here Wexford seem to raise their standards against higher ranked teams.
Absolutely do. I'm like, because Matthew asked me something. I'd be interested to get your take on it as well as a fellow Dub. Matthew said, why are Dublin more consistent against Antrim, Westmeath, Laois, Carlow than Wexford are? Why are Dublin more consistent?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what it is. We just seem to beat the teams we should be able to beat, but it's against the bigger teams where we just completely roll over. Like, with Dublin, it's just more straightforward for whatever reason. Well, we might have the odd surprise. I think maybe because it's happened to Dublin in the past, especially with Laois. I think that was a real wake-up call for a lot of them Dublin lads. And I think that game
Wexford have had 6 or 7 wake-up calls. Wexford are
they've had a few now.
The alarm over and over again. Like, that's fine.
But I think Dublin but I think Dublin as well, though, probably look at it more realistically. And I think Micheál Donoghue, because Dublin obviously don't have the history of Wexford hurling, and do you know that way. Obviously, Dublin is a huge county, and we know that, and they probably should be producing better players. But in terms of, like, standards, Wexford's, in terms of history and everything else, and players that they have, is higher. So I think they always back themselves in any game they go into. But it leaves themselves open a little bit, and I think they go into games maybe a little bit complacent and think we should win this fairly handily. And then I think when they face a bit of adversity against smaller teams, they seem to really struggle.
Funny enough, I gave more or less the same answer. Like I said, I feel like Dublin, we know where we're at. We know who we should beat, and we know who we probably don't have a chance of beating. And that's why, like, against Kilkenny and Clare, not only do we lose, but we usually get our ass whooped. Whereas against Antrim and Westmeath, you very rarely see us mess up. It's usually a 6 point, 7 point win for Dublin, and they get out of there. Whereas Wexford, it seems like they stroll in, they're like, yeah, we'll win this. Oh, whoops, we lost. Now we're just going to have to beat Kilkenny, and then they do it. Which must be infuriating. But for Rossiter, he's gotten a lot of draws throughout the league campaign, throughout the championship as well, drawn with Dublin in round one. I think this is in the territory of a draw again. Because remember, Galway drew at Wexford, I think it was a couple of years ago. Last time they played each other in Wexford Park.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Like you feel like Galway should win though, like with the talent that they have, with the players that they have. Like Cathal Mannion was obviously very good the last day. Gavin Lee, I think, has been a great addition into the team as well. Brian Concannon's in decent form. So you feel like Galway should win. They should beat them based off of the players that they have. But at the same time, like Lee Shin is in extraordinary form for Wexford after 2-11 versus Antrim. So
literally couldn't have done anything more. Like
yeah. Do you know what I mean? And kind of mad, like getting mad at a match against Antrim, having that tally but still not winning. It is kind of bizarre, to be honest. But yeah, like looking at Galway, like with the talent and players that they have, what Henry Shefflin's obviously trying to build, they should win this. They should sense the opportunity, because if Galway were to lose, then all of a sudden, like it kind of nearly blows that Leinster final place wide open. And I think it would potentially work very well for Dublin, provided obviously they beat Antrim in 2 weeks' time or whatever.
Yeah, I think Antrim and Dublin would be absolutely over the moon if Wexford get the win. Yeah, or like you never know, it could be a dangerous one. I think maybe Dublin would be looking at this hoping that Galway win. Because then if Dublin beat Antrim, Dublin are leg ahead of Wexford. I think I think that Dublin will be hoping for Galway to win this one. So yeah, if anybody's going to win, it's going to be Galway. But in all sense, I do think it will be a draw. I just have this unshakable feeling. I think it's going to be a draw.
Yeah, no, I think I'll actually agree with you on that one. Dublin says here, I would like Wexford to win this, and no excuses for Dublin and the Hurling, big enough county to be 50-50. Yeah, look, they probably should be producing maybe better players than Hurling, but look, I suppose that's a conversation for another day. In fairness, the other Hurling game, there's no other games on in Leinster. Bit of a sort of split week this week, but that's how it is. But the other game, or senior game, a high profile game, we should say, Waterford against Tipperary in Walsh Park. Liam Cahill coming down to his old stomping ground. Liam Cahill versus Davy Fitz. No love lost between the two of them. Like, there's been some very interesting comments coming out of media from either one of them, like in the build up to this. Like Davy Fitz has been saying that Waterford, where the confidence was absolutely on the floor when he first took them over, kind of implying that like the manager before him wasn't able to get confidence in the lads. And Liam Cahill's been going back to Derek McGrath's comments as well, so he's been having a bit of a go at him. So look, there's going to be blood, thunder, guts really laid out on the pitch on Saturday. I can't wait for this one.
Certainly will be. And as you said, like Davy Fitz is going to have these lads riled up. Like I reckon, like, because the way that Liam Cahill like consistently said, I'm not going to Tipperary, and then off he went. And just remember at the time being like, I remember just looking at Waterford thinking like, well, I don't know how you ever thought that he wouldn't go to Tipperary eventually. Like, this is what this was all for. It's the same thing for me with Galway with Henry Shefflin. Like, I don't understand this whole concept of hiring managers from other counties. Like, if you're at the level where you are good enough to go for All Irelands, or you're good enough to go for Munster Championships or Leinster Championships, I don't think you should be hiring a manager who looks destined to take over at another team. Henry Shefflin, for me, at one point anyway, looked destined to be the next Kilkenny manager. Do you know the last time it worked to yield an All Ireland, Aaron? Hiring a manager from another county?
I can't really think of anything in Hurling.
1998.
There we go.
Michael Bond with Offaly. In football, 2001. John O'Mahony with Galway.
There we go. There we are.
So it doesn't work. Like, it really doesn't work. I think for that,
I think it works. I think it works with the smaller counties to a certain extent. Like,
it works to get your level higher. It works to get your level higher, but I don't think it works in the ultimate game. Yeah. I don't think it'll worse than the ultimate game, because I'm not saying that the players look over and see a manager from a different county and think, well, we're not playing for him. They're playing for their county. But I think when you think that you are good enough to go and win the All-Ireland, I think you go with one of your own. I really do. I think it's something that is just a little bit of a trend among counties that you see. Like John Kiley came into Limerick. They had John Allen, they'd had Donald O'Grady, but then they went with Kiley when they were like, right, time to go. Same thing. Like I know they had TJ Ryan in before as well, but like Clare brought in Davy Fitz when it was time to cash in on this golden team. Like I personally think that, for example, with the Liam Cahill situation, that when he went to Tip, I think that just would have hurt Waterford a lot, because it was like a situation of course he was going to be Tipperary boss. Of course he was going to, like, how did you not see that coming?
Yeah, like and to be fair, like they obviously beat Tipperary last year. Like after they'd obviously already been gone. So they do have that Waterford over Tip. But it is mad, like the scenario going into this game. If you did,
Tipperary were shocking against Limerick.
Yeah, like if we were sitting here 2 weeks ago, we would have been predicting Tipperary to win this, by 4 or 5. But now it's the complete opposite way. After, as you said, Tipperary. Like
it's crazy how one game can just
poor how they looked against Limerick.
It's crazy how just one game can just change the dynamic around their county. Because Waterford coming into this game against Cork, the first game, they were like absolutely everyone's pick to finish 5th. Waterford were the pick that everybody was saying, there's your 2 points on the board. For them to beat Cork really shook up the Munster Championship. And then Tipperary were so bad against Limerick. I know Limerick were very good and they were much better than they were against Clare in round 1, but Tipperary weren't good either. And they had the long run into it. They had the break. You'd wonder what on earth had them so flat on the first game. It's difficult. Tipperary need to win this. Liam Cahill will have them fired up. Absolutely fired up. But I think Waterford and Walsh Park, Davy Fitz, I think Waterford nicked this by a point.
Yeah, I'd probably lean towards Waterford as well, to be honest. It's just a massive opportunity, like such a short turnaround for Tipperary as well. Like, would they have been able to work on all the problems, all the things that went wrong in the space of a week in the build up to this game? I don't really know if you can.
Waterford had the break. They had a week to sit back, watch Tip. Davy Fitz was at the game. He was at the Tipperary Limerick game, watching.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good at all. Like, and because even the younger lads for Tipperary, like they have had underage success, and there's no doubt about it. It's kind of similar to Cork to a certain extent, and Beast has a good comment here as well. Big problem for Cork and Tip, can't pump in the under 20 lads. Limerick and Clare good at that. Yeah, that's what separates them.
But Limerick constantly have new saviours, like Donegal Dálig against Clare. In he comes, hits a goal. Like they constantly have a new guy stepping up. Carl O'Neill stepped up last year. Like they have lads waiting in the wings, like Shane O'Brien, like Adam English, Colin Coughlin. Like these lads that have been waiting for their chance, and you'd imagine they'll take it when it comes. Whereas you're right, like Cork and Tip, they seem to struggle to get these lads in, and there's a lot of lads that have been really good for the under-20s that they've really found it hard to give them a permanent spot in the team. I said that the biggest difference for me is you look at Limerick's 6 forwards. If everybody in Limerick is fit, you know exactly who Limerick are going with for their 6 forwards. You know it's Hegarty, Lynch, Morrissey, Casey, Gallan and Flanagan.
Yeah.
I haven't a breeze who Cork are going with. I know Horgan's going to be there. But apart from that, Robbie O'Flynn maybe at right half and Shamey Hannity at the centre. But the rest, like, God knows who's going to be there.
Yeah, and it's up in the air with Tipperary as well. Like, obviously, Bonner Mars coming on, Noel McGrath's coming on late on to try and save the day. Like, obviously, Jake Morris has been very consistent and been brilliant for Tipperary since coming in. He had an off day the last day. Jason Ford's obviously Mr. Reliable in fairness. And they've obviously had a few retirements and everything else with big players in the last few years. But yeah, looking
centre back, man. You don't have a breeze who's going to play centre half back for Tip. One day it's Robert Byrne, next day it's Brian O'Mara, then it's Brian McGrath, then it's Owen Connolly. They need to just pick one.
Yeah, you be going Waterford then by a point.
Waterford by a point for me in dramatic fashion, and then we'll have an interesting handshake at the end with Davy and Liam Cahill.
Yeah, it'd be mad as well. Like that'd be Tipperary probably almost done and dusted because they wouldn't be able to catch Waterford, wouldn't be able to catch Limerick, and still maybe
Clare and Cork. They'd have to beat Clare and Cork and hope that results fall for them.
Yeah, and would that even be enough?
I don't see them beating both of them. I think if they lose this, they're gone, which is nuts.
Yeah, it is crazy, but that is the Munster Championship. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-point win there for Waterford. But yeah, anyone who's tuning in, let us know your predictions in the comments. 3 games in the Joe McDonagh Cup. No other games in the lower tiers, so it's just the Joe McDonagh Cup game. So we have Down against Westmeath first up here. You'd imagine Westmeath should bounce back 2 defeats on the spin. If they were to somehow lose this, you'd nearly start thinking Westmeath could end up in the Christie Ring, which would be absolutely mental. But they should, by all accounts, come back and win this.
They really should. I've been very surprised with their start. I mean, losing to Kerry on the first game was a bit of a, like, you more so looked at Kerry and thought, like, you know, what a great performance. Offaly then beat them in round 2. You're thinking, I would have tipped Westmeath as probably one of the front runners to win the competition, especially when you've seen how close they were last year to staying up in the Liam McCarthy. But they need to win this. I would go with Westmeath to beat Down here.
Yeah, no, I would as well. I think they should bounce back to get the victory. Will they get to the Joe McDonagh Cup final? Probably not. They probably left themselves too much to do, but they need to give themselves the best possible chance at doing it. Meath and Offaly, again, like Laois obviously put 7 goals past Meath the last day. I'm not saying Offaly are necessarily going to do that, but you would expect Offaly to comfortably get past Meath.
Absolutely. If Offaly have any ideas about getting out of the John McDonagh, especially after seeing what Laois did, a comfortable win here is the absolute bare minimum that they should do.
Yeah, and I think they will, to be fair. Like they bounce back, obviously, with a win versus Westmeath, and that was a big win for them. Be interesting to see if they get any more players sent off after 30 or 40 seconds this time around. But yeah, a little bit of a mad game that. But yeah, you would expect Offaly to get the job done. And Kerry versus Laois, arguably the most interesting one, this one, just in the sense that Kerry obviously have 2 wins on the bounce, first versus second in the Joe McDonagh. So like Laois should win because Laois are the favourites, I think, for this competition now, and rightly so, given how well they've looked in the opening 2 games. Kerry, it's hard to, obviously you don't always get to see a lot of them, in fairness, but Maurice O'Connor's looks fairly decent there. Laois should win, but could there be an upset here?
There definitely could be an upset. Kerry are very strong in the Joe McDonagh Cup always, like, hence why they've been making finals over the last 5 years pretty consistently. Personally, I think Laois will win this. I think Laois have kind of highlighted themselves as being the team to watch in the Joe McDonagh Cup. I think, like, if you look as well, like the experienced campaigners they have, like Paddy Purcell and the Rowland and like Ross Dunphy, like these are still the lads doing the stuff for Laois. Like these are still the lads leading the way, and it's really, really, you know, good to see for Laois that, you know, that team that beat Dublin in 2019 and, you know, really put it up to Tipperary, who went on to be All-Ireland champions. That team isn't completely gone. It hasn't completely faded away. They are making a comeback. You know, beating Offaly on the first day out was a good win, but I did tip them to win that, and people did tip them to win that. But to hammer Meath the way that they did is a real statement that, you know, we're out of here. We're out of the John McDonagh. We are a problem for this division. And I expect them to beat Kerry.
Yeah, no, I would as well. I'd expect Laois to have far too much there from a Laois perspective. So yeah, I'll go with Laois to win that one. Before we finish up, then, in terms of player of the week, bet of the week, you can choose one from football and hurling if you want. I mean, there's really, I suppose with football, I don't think there really is a bet of the week, to be fair. So maybe skip over that one. But yeah, in terms of player of the week for football hurling, what would you be looking at?
Player of the week. I think David Clifford is a good shout. I think he has a good game in him. Player of the week for football, Ryan O'Donoghue. Mayo to win, Ryan O'Donoghue to play well.
There we go. Yeah, I'm going to go Shane Walsh for Galway to silence the doubters. Even Mayo, even though I predict Mayo to win, I still think
You'd be right about something then.
yeah, exactly. We're right somewhere down the line. For hurling, what would you be aiming towards?
Bet of the week.
Or even player of the week. Bet of the week.
Underdog bet of the week is Wexford to beat Galway.
It is, yeah.
Player of the week leads in.
Yeah, I think so. To back it straight back up after last week. I think for myself, I'd probably go Calum Lyons maybe for Waterford. Was very impressive. I thought the last day out versus Cork, and I think he'll have a big game and have a big save. Versus actually, you know who I'll go? I'll go Desi Hutchinson actually, because I think he's a player, because he was arguably the best player for Waterford under Liam Cahill. So if anyone has to prove anything, I think it will be him. I think I'll go Desi Hutchinson, and then bet of the week, probably nothing really there, but I think Wexford Galway is certainly one that would look a little bit tasty. I think we'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. Seamus, thank you very much for jumping on, and anyone who tuned in, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, helps the channel out. If you can share this with your friends and family, that'd be perfect as well. Leave a rating on any podcasting apps that you're listening on as well, and that would be absolutely brilliant. So we'll speak to you all again.